Msemaji wa jeshi la Israel Defense Forces IDF, anaitwa Jonathan Conricus, asubuhi ya Jumatano hii ametoa taarifa na kueleza kile ambacho kinaendelea, kile ambacho anakiita ni situational update kuhusiana na majeshi na vita vinavyoendelea dhidi ya kundi la Hamas. Katika taarifa yake ambayo nitakuwekea yote umsikie mwenyewe akiongea, Jonathan Conricus amesema kwamba mpaka sasa Waisrael ambao wameuawa ni 1200 na amesisitiza kwamba hivi ni vifo ambavyo wanavibaini ama wanatambua sasa miili mingine ambayo ilikuwa haifahamiki, na sio kwamba ni mashambulizi mapya kutoka kwa Hamas ambayo yamesababisha vifo hivi. Mengi zaidi ama vifo hivi ni vile ambavyo vimefanyika katika ile shambulio la kwanza. Kwa hiyo wanagundua sasa hivi miili mbalimbali. Vile vile kuna majeruhi wengi tu kama zaidi ya 2000 pia ameeleza hivyo, na kwa sasa ambacho anakisema ni kwamba wamepeleka majeshi mbalimbali, infantry, majeshi ya chini, armored soldiers, majeshi ya angani, lakini vile vile akisisitiza kwamba na hii ni kutokana na kuwachukua hawa ni wanajeshi takriban 300 ambao ni wa ziada, reserves, ambao wameingia katika vita kupambana na Hamas. Kwa hiyo anaeleza vile vile anachosema kwamba lengo kubwa sana la serikali ya Israel ni kuhakikisha kwamba wanaondoa kabisa uwezo wa kundi la Hamas kufanya shughuli zozote za kijeshi. Kwa hiyo hiki ndicho ambacho wanakieleza hapa. Anasema kwamba and that is to make sure that Hamas at this end of this war won't have any military capabilities by which they can threaten or kill Israel's civilians. Kwamba ni kuhakikisha kwamba mwisho wa vita hii Hamas hawatakuwa na uwezo wowote wa kivita kutisha au kuua raia wa Israel. So msikilize mwenyewe, huyu hapa msemaji wa IDF Jonathan Conricus. Hii ni taarifa ambayo imewekwa kwenye ukurasa wa Twitter wa IDF asubuhi ya Jumatano hii.
Shalom everyone, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan here, Reserve IDF spokesperson, and this is our daily update. It is almost 6 a.m. in Israel, and Wednesday, 4 days after the war started with Hamas, 4 days after Hamas breached into Israel, attacked Israeli communities, murdered and massacred Israeli civilians, and took dozens of Israelis hostage into Gaza. The death toll is a staggering 1,200 dead Israelis. I'll repeat that number because it is unimaginable. 1,200 dead Israelis, the overwhelming majority of them civilians, and more than 2,700 wounded. And sadly, something tells me that these numbers are not the final numbers. Now, if you've watched our previous update and you've been following the news like so many around the world have, we were at 700 and then 900 dead Israelis, and then all of a sudden a jump to 1,200. That is not because there's ongoing fighting and Israelis continue to be butchered by Hamas terrorists. It is because now, as the time has gone by, we are discovering bodies of dead Israelis in the various communities that Hamas infiltrated and where they conducted their massacres. If you've been watching news today, you will have seen coverage in legacy media of the atrocities, the unspeakable atrocities that Hamas performed in many of the communities around Gaza. Specifically, international media today was granted access to a small and what used to be beautiful kibbutz northeast of the Gaza Strip. The kibbutz is called Kfar Aza, and I'll show you on this map here exactly where Kfar Aza is and how close it is to the Gaza Strip. We've zoomed in on the area. This is the Gaza Strip, the northeastern part of Gaza. We have Gaza City here, and then on this side of the border is Israel. Now we'll zoom in on this community here. This is the community of Kfar Aza, a little kibbutz. And as you can see, quite close, a few minutes running distance from the border to Kfar Aza. And today the international media went in here and saw the carnage and destruction that Hamas terrorists left behind in this village. And what did they see? Something out of a scene of an apocalyptic movie or something related to zombies. I can't explain it in other words. Bodies out on the streets, burnt houses, cars riddled with bullet holes and looted, all of the houses looted, and the bodies of Israeli civilians, men, women, children, the elderly, on the streets scattered after they were dragged out of their shelters and executed at point blank, or after they were trying to flee their houses, which Hamas set on fire in order to get them to go out. Many of the residents of this beautiful kibbutz were people who were very gentle and kind and believed in coexistence and believed in solving our problems not through the use of violence. Many of them, and I know them because I have friends in that kibbutz, they had friends in Gaza and they spoke with residents in Gaza. And they were happy to accept workers from Gaza who worked in the fields of this kibbutz, providing livelihood for thousands of Palestinians. Yet, when the Palestinian terrorists chose a target, they chose this kibbutz, and they chose kibbutz Be'eri, and many other communities. And what we've seen today and exposed to the world is the atrocity of what Hamas did. So 1,200 dead Israelis, 2,700 wounded, dozens of Israelis are held captive inside Gaza by Hamas. By the way, many of them with dual nationalities. So this isn't an Israeli challenge only, this is something that concerns many of the free countries of the world. We have Americans, Brits, French, Germans, Italians, Brazilians, people from Argentina and from Ukraine and many other countries. I don't remember the entire list because it's so long. These are the people, the civilians that Hamas has dragged into Gaza and are now holding captive. And of course, we are committed to getting them back. Now, I want to brief you a little bit about the situation in the south. If we zoom out a bit and have a look at the map again, hopefully I'll be able to zoom it in correctly, then we have the Gaza Strip, as you can see here, and the area around the Gaza Strip here is where Israeli troops now have regained control. We have rebuilt the barrier along the border here, and we have plugged and mended the different openings that Hamas was able to create when they breached, so that now the defense obstacle is closed. We are guarding it closely and making sure that Hamas terrorists are not infiltrating again. And what we're also doing in these areas close to the Gaza Strip is that we have deployed, or actually we have sent our infantry, armored soldiers, our artillery corps, and many other soldiers from the reserves, 300,000 in numbers, in different brigades and divisions, and they are now close to the Gaza Strip, getting ready to execute the mission that they have been given, that we have been given by the Israeli government, and that is to make sure that Hamas, at the end of this war, won't have any military capabilities by which they can threaten or kill Israeli civilians. That is our military aim. Now, what's going on inside Gaza? If we have a look at this impoverished little area, it is very dense. You can see that it's less than 20 miles long from the northeastern part to the southwestern part, and at the widest, less than 9 miles. So 9 miles here and 20 miles here. And in this area, 20 million people live under the ruthless regime of a terrorist organization we all know as Hamas. What we have been doing from the air over the last hours and actually an entire day is striking Hamas targets with great power and severity. We have been striking all of the different targets, the military targets belonging to Hamas. Now, you may have seen footage on TV or on social media, and you may see a building standing and then flashes and then the building collapses. And you say to yourself, well, that looks very much like a civilian building. What I want to tell you is that no, that isn't a civilian building. It is a legitimate military target. And why is that? Because Hamas locates all of their offices, headquarters, their research and development, and all of their other military assets, if it's above ground, they locate themselves in civilian buildings. And Hamas, being the cowards that they are, they never put signs on their buildings saying, "Welcome to the Hamas headquarters for planning terrorist activity in Israel," or "Welcome to the Research and Development Center for drones and projectiles." You will never see that, because Hamas wants to disguise itself as civilians, and they use civilian buildings for military purposes, which makes it a legitimate military target. And those are the targets that we are striking with tremendous force over the last days, and those are the images that you're seeing coming out of Gaza. And we will continue to do that as time goes by and as we generate more and more intelligence about where Hamas are. I want to be totally clear. The IDF remains committed to the law of armed conflict, and we conduct ourselves according to it, despite the fact that we are furious, angry, frustrated, and appalled by the atrocities that Hamas has done against us. We still keep our morals, and we still make sure that we fight according to the laws that we are committed to. And that's how we will continue, despite the difficult situation. Now I want to zoom out and speak about the other fronts, because we haven't spoken about that on our previous updates, and I think it's important for all of you to be aware of what's going on. So there are two more active fronts that we are dealing with. One is the front with Lebanon. So I zoomed out from Gaza here in the south, and we traveled north along the beautiful country of Israel, and now I'm zooming in on the northern border. Rosh Hanikra in the west and the Mediterranean Sea, and then the border goes here all the way up to the Hermon mountain and the Syrian border on the other side. Lebanon being here, Israel being here, and these are the Golan Heights and the border with Syria. The Sea of Galilee, you can use that as a reference point. So in southern Lebanon, Hezbollah has already fired anti-tank missiles and rockets at our positions and soldiers, fortunately without any significant casualties. And there has already been an attempt of Islamic Jihad terrorists to infiltrate into Israel. That attempt was successfully thwarted by the IDF, sadly, at the cost of the life of a senior officer and 2 additional soldiers. But the attempt was stopped, and as of now, there are no attacks and no active combat events on the northern border. However, we remain very vigilant. We have deployed tens of thousands of additional units along the northern border, and I'm talking about infantry, special forces, armored forces, artillery, air force, and additional assets, of course, intelligence and logistics and everything that we need in order to keep those operations running. They are deployed along the northern border, and the message to Hezbollah is very clear that if they will try to attack, we are ready and we are vigilant along our border. Now, the third area of operations, or the third front that has opened and we find ourselves active in, again, by means of aggression from the other side. It is aggression from across our borders into Israel, from Gaza, from Lebanon, and now also from Syria. So back to the map. If we look at the area, then we spoke about the Lebanese border, Golan Heights, Syria on the east, and the Golan Heights here. Attacks, rockets were fired from Syria into Israel. We do not yet know if these rockets were fired by the Syrian armed forces, by any of the many Iranian militias that exist and are welcomed by the Syrian regime, or Hezbollah, or any other faction. What we do know is that we retaliated fire towards the sources of fire, and currently the situation there is quiet. And let's hope that it remains in that way. Now, we'll zoom out and we'll speak about something that we haven't spoken about at all. and that is something that is happening in the Mediterranean. In the Eastern Mediterranean, an American fighter carrier is making its way, a whole battle group, a US battle group is making its way in the Eastern Mediterranean towards the Israeli and Lebanese coast. And the message coming out of that US Central Command battle group to Iran and to Hezbollah, to the Syrian regime, is that this battle group is here to make sure that the war against Hamas doesn't escalate to a regional war between Israel and many other entities. And let's hope that that message of deterrence is heard loud and clear in Tehran, in Beirut, and in Damascus. So the situation, as you can understand, is extremely sensitive. We are fighting along 3 fronts of our homeland. We have sustained extremely heavy casualties. 1,200 Israelis have been killed, sadly, and more than 2,700 have been wounded. This, however, will not deter us, and it will not weaken our resolve. We are focused, organized. We enjoy the full support of the population and the state of Israel, and I'm happy to say that we are also seeing, witnessing, and enjoying the full support of all of the democratic and free countries around the world. The shows of support from all around the world are very clear. Capitals are lit in Israeli colors. Statements by Parliament and Congress and legislators from around the world saying clearly that we stand by Israel and we stand by Israel's right to defend itself. And that is excellent. And we hope that remains that way even when the fighting will intensify and the scenes coming out of the Gaza Strip will be more difficult to understand and cope with. I thank you very much for watching. If you find this content useful, retweet it and share it to your friends on various platforms, and make sure that people who care about Israel and want the truth stay informed and get the information from a good and trustworthy source. I wish you all the best, and I will see all of you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
Wateja wako watarajiwa wanaangalia video hii. Kama biashara yako ingeonekana pamoja na unachokiangalia sasa, wengi wangegeuka kuwa wateja wako wapya. Tuandikie sasa info@snstz.com au WhatsApp pekee 0659 250 389. Tuifikishe biashara yako kwa wana SNS.